Oh, it was crisp.
The crisp one.
A very
Better.
crisp one. And what a perfect way to break into our first live stream that is also streaming to YouTube. So we're on Facebook Live. We're
Huzzah.
also, I know, we've got our own YouTube channel now. I'm just, getting in there on my phone to make sure I'm watching everything that's going on. And, we're excited particularly about this because it improves accessibility. Not all of our pals, our friends, our fans, not even all of our readers are on Facebook. So we kind of finally figured out a way to keep it fun and social and to expand into the YouTube world and just be accessible to more people and have a new place where our videos will be archived for everyone's enjoyment forever.
Well, if it weren't for this and a couple other things, I would probably not be on Facebook.
Right? Yeah.
It's more and more showing itself to be, kind of part of the evil empire.
The evil empire.
If we can exploit the evil people to our own positive ends.
Yes. Yes.
Why not?
Absolutely. I completely agree. Facebook at times is, a bit problematic, but, these various social media outlets have been a lifesaver in many ways in the midst of quarantine and social distancing and everything that we've been dealing with for almost a year now. It's just so good to connect, and anything that helps us to connect while not being super evil is is something I'm willing to perhaps use sometime.
I hear you. Well, we use it for positive things.
We do. We sure do. Well,
There's
we have a lot of friends coming in. Mom's here.
Hi, Mom. Susan Davis coming from sunny California.
Yes, we have JLC Myers joining us, who will be reading with us very soon. Yes, and who else do we have here? We have some other friends coming in. Very good, very good. Hopefully people are finding us on YouTube and that's working out. Chris, I just shared with Chris my beverage for tonight, which looks like water, but it is some kind of hard seltzer made by my favorite wine brand, and it smells like the color should be red. We were just discussing this. But it's probably healthier that it's not full of red food coloring.
I think so.
It is probably better. Yes.
Remember that beer? What was it called? Zuma or whatever it was back in the day. It was clear. It's very strange.
Oh! I think I remember that. I don't remember the exact name. Was it Zima? Zuma?
Zuma.
I don't remember. Zorro. Well, I also want to bring to everyone's attention that there seems to be a little red memo going out, with our red, our maroon. Are you wearing red or maroon at home, perhaps? Let us know in the comments.
Let's see. Our readers tonight are in hipster dark colors.
Yes, looking very cool.
The hosts are in red. That's the way it probably should be at all times.
At all times, yeah. We should coordinate our colors and outfits. We haven't really thought about that, Chris. We could, bring people on a little visual adventure here. I just took down my Christmas tree. I kept it up a little long, and now I'm into my Valentine's Day decoration. So even though, Valentine's Day is a little ways off, I'm getting into my colors. I mean, this technically could be a Christmas color, but in my mind, it's Valentine's Day.
Oh, you got your
It's hidden behind the hair curtain.
nice. Very nice.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't put my Valentine's things up yet.
Oh, you haven't, Chris?
No, I haven't.
Aw, that's a shame.
Yeah, I haven't, but I will. I will. And we're going to have a Valentine's Day special event.
Oh, yes, we are.
So we'll have to do some decorating.
Absolutely. I'll maybe need to get some special accessories, a brand new top, do a special eyeshadow look, for our romance night, which is coming up the 14th. Valentine's Day falls on a Sunday, so we are going to have a special Valentine's Day reading. We're inviting you to participate. Please reach out to us if you'd like to read. We'll post more about it, but you don't need to wait for that. We're also planning on having a Black History Month reading. If you'd like to participate in that, also reach out to us. And tonight, it is 7:00, so we want to make sure that we announce that welcome officially to our reading number 37, FUMFA 37. And we're welcoming tonight poet Allison Woods and memoirist F. Scott Service. We're very excited to have them with us tonight. And we also have many exciting things coming up in the upcoming weeks. Next week, who's on next week, Chris?
Next week, we have two fantastic fiction writers, Kim McGowan and Michelle Ross.
Awesome.
It's going to be a night of full of fiction.
Yes.
And it's going to be extra interesting because they've written individually, and they've also written stories together, which is an unusual thing. And so we're going to talk about that. So that's next week. The week after that, we got our friend JLC Myers.
Hey.
Reading a play. Is it a play or a screenplay? I think it's a play. And
we'll have multiple readers.
With multiple, we'll have performers doing some acting.
Woo!
And, who knows? Who knows who might show up that night to do that? And then we have all kinds of things down the road, including that Valentine's Day night and Black History Month night, and both of those obviously in February.
Yes, we're very excited about all of those things. We thank all of you who filled out the survey and shared your interest with us, new readers, returning readers, people from within our community, friends of the community. All of you are welcome. And, go back and find that survey link. If you haven't filled it out already, share with us your interest and your email. So we're excited about everything coming up. But let's get into our bios for our readers for tonight. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and read Allison's bio for our audience.
All right.
Okay. Allison Woods was born and raised in New York City. Her poems have appeared in literary journals including The Formalist, the National Poetry Review, On the Bus, the Paris Review, Poetry East, Ratapalix, and others. She has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize twice and was a finalist in the Lyric Recovery Festival at Carnegie Hall. Her chapbook, Dark Forest, won the New Women's Voices chapbook competition from Finishing Line Press. Woods earned a Master of Fine Arts degree from Columbia University in New York City. She currently lives in Dobbs Ferry, New York. We're excited to hear Allison very soon. And Chris.
For some reason, not included in that bio is her new book, which is right here.
Bless His Home. Awesome cover art.
From which she will be reading tonight.
Nice.
All right. I'm going to read F. Scott Service, who seems to have been born to be a writer, I would think, with that name, F. Scott.
With that name.
Born to be in the service, I guess, at the same time, and to write about his service. He's a former sergeant with the Army National Guard and a full-time author now. His first memoir, Lines in the Sand, An American Soldier's Personal Journey in Iraq, is a transcription of the handwritten journals he kept during his tour of duty. And it details not only the turmoil of war and his divorce, but how he became a conscientious objector. His second book, Playing Soldier, takes on a broader scope, capturing his lifelong journey of unlearning expectation, celebrating individuality, and nourishing self-acceptance, once buried by cultural stamps of approval and societal convention. Both of these books have won Reader's Favorite 5-star awards. And Scott has earned a Bachelor of Science in professional/technical communication, and also, of course, a Master of Fine Arts in creative writing. And he's also had experience with editing, journalism, and desktop publishing. He lives in New England, and he's going to be reading a little bit later tonight.
Yes. Thank you so much, Chris. We're so excited for our readings tonight, and we're going to get started right now. I'm going to bring up Allison Woods. Welcome, Allison.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautifully read, so earnestly read introduction. And of course, thank you for plugging my book. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, this weekend was sort of my virtual celebration for the publication of my book.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Fabulous. We'll leave you.
Thank you. It's really weird to be reading virtually with my picture in front of me, but I did read last night as well. And so I picked a whole new bunch. I can't tell who's here, but I did pick a whole new bunch of poems to read this evening. And I'm just really honored to be here. So thank you so much. And I think with that, I will just get started. The first poem that I'm going to read is a poem called Magic Show. It's actually the first poem in my book. And I guess there's not much to say about it. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think I just wanted to say that I've been noticing, and I hope maybe you'll pick up on this a little bit, that some of the poems that I write have this weird way when I reread them of being very small and insular, but also somewhat metaphoric, and hopefully can speak to larger issues as well, or evoke larger issues. So this poem is called Magic Show. We're here in the gilded theater, elbow to elbow, close as we are able to conjure, given the velvet seat divider. Uncertainty prompts our gasps, then applause. The magician releases himself from the many knots he has bound himself to. A small box tapped twice, and we reason out the dove who appears from beneath the billowing scarf. The light-tricked halo clings tight to a magic bred this deep. The sleights of hand, the rabbit's foot, the girl he saws into. This next poem is also in my collection, my book, Bless This Home. It takes place in Louisiana. It's a somewhat foreboding poem, right as I was meeting my now ex-husband. So this poem is called Tilt-A-Whirl. In '92, it was a kind of freedom to knock about, straddled on the back of his motorcycle, Lake Charles, the smallest city I had ever lived in. Walking beneath looming cypress trees, all I felt was an eagerness to feel. Boudin spilling out of its casing caused a stir. It was a dream. We met in the library, soon married, then made a daughter more mine than sunshine. His pawpaw called me sassafras. That first night we found a carnival by the lake, a wink from the man who opened the gate, our tickets fluttering down. The thud of beanbags missing their mark beat in the background, while the chemical plant's sunset blazed more brilliant than the original, and we sat, knee to knee, pressed into the deep seat of the ride. Now we're back in New York City. This poem is titled In the Museum of Natural History. And it's somewhat of a natural progression from that previous poem. In the Museum of Natural History, diorama, headdress, colorful ceremony, everything stilled in fate. Daughter, you moved inside of me. I was almost a mother and already dutiful, walking as the doctor instructed to induce labor. The halls are mammoth, kayaks behind glass. Cherokee women stared back at me. Soon you will ask, why has my father abandoned me? Navajos praise, gray bird drinking from a ditch, elk prancing. The Cree prepare for winter, a prayer for rain and wheat, and yet to name you means you belong to me. Women turn seed to bread, a task of faith. Iroquois came into the world from mud on the back of a grandmother turtle. A ripe moon unloads her passengers into the fields of mother love, my wren in snow, my bright papoose. And from New York City, we go to North Salem, New York. Included in here a little bit for Chris. Okay, Baxter Land Preserve, North Salem, New York, one of the most beautiful places in the world, I think. My daughter woke heartbroken this morning, shivering in a well of tears. We share a season of heartbreak, 2 generations, 2 females, plus our dog, who barks at a lone stud grazing. The dog tries to get his attention, the equivalent of love in any denomination, canine, equine, or human. Dog and horse square off, tresses, snout, hoof, paw. His glorious mane, her visible quivering, one yelping, each with a calling. The horse swats a fly, blinks a dark-honed eye, while our dog briefly disappears. What else do we have if not the freedom to turn away and leap into a tangle of holly? So this next poem is actually not in my collection, Bless This Home. I think it's in the chapbook I published earlier, but yeah, I was sort of pulling poems that had something to do with language, and this one seemed to fit that theme a little bit. So this poem is called Departure, and it's for a poet who is no longer with us named Sarah Hannah. We hallucinate our mothers. They come to us with the bizarre offering of ghosts, willow branches woolen with tear-shaped buds, and they impart in us a love of the unnameable. So we begin. Stargrass, riceweed, dune grass, oats, curly willow, eucalyptus, corkscrew willow. On we march into the field of language, hearts ablaze, mouths open. There is a world between what we see and who we are. When the botany of sorrow becomes thick, there is hallucination, another season, a new life just beyond. Ice fishing. Nothing is bathed in as much light as a field of water. To sit beside a fire on a frozen lake limbed with pine, oak, bramble is in itself a revelry. True, I had resisted and was ready to leave by day's end, but I will never ice fish again that comfortably. Warmth on a cold day is complex, longing, smug, and satisfied. If life is a snowdrift amassed, what comforts is the icicle melting in the mouth of a doe, her prance across the yard viewed from a window. Let's go to the lake of uncertainty, embrace the forecast of ice inches, winter's cycle, thick and thin again, then return to walls instead of trees. Here a slow melt occurs. The heart topples its mountain of shame. Hopes unfreeze with their quicksilver counterparts. O's dot the pond where we dig to the flowing water below. Fishermen wrap their catches in newspaper, woolen backs bent like hooks, and the sun casts its pure, exuberant blaze. Okay. I switch locations a lot, and we're back in very much in urban New York City right now. This is a poem called Canary. Coming home, I found a lost bird. His owner had taped flyers to lampposts, and in thick black marker, a phone number. Who's going to find a canary and return him, I thought, until I found myself climbing the hood of a car, cooing, trying to save him from the wilderness of the city. I was a new mother, working for a mortgage company, climbing out of the subway most days, focused on the exact next right step. And here I was, holding this canary, feathers exploding in my hands. This poem is actually a villanelle, and it's called Tether. Sometimes I forget I am a mother. The earth, in turning night to day, illuminates our home, my life, its cover, turns my eye away from hovering over my child's eager display. Sometimes I forget I am a mother, looking to love's other possibility, and that is okay, to illuminate my home, my life, its cover. Sometimes fearful of regret's deep shudder, life being judged by those who stay. I sometimes forget I am a mother, yet being one, we are each other's lover, reveling in our own play that illuminates our home, my life, its cover. Then it dawns, she is my tether, my next right step, my right of way. Sometimes to forget I am a mother illuminates my home, my life, its cover. It's weird with Zoom, you get to see everybody, but with this, you just see yourself. Okay, the next two poems actually are poems about, in a sense, the act of creation. They're sort of concerned with physicality and space and time and sport and pushing limits. So this first poem is called Ice Dancer. And then the next one, Lena and the Flying Cranes, is about an acrobat. And again, they're sort of more language driven. So I put them together here. Ice Dancer. She swims a universe of air and whirls. The opal eye, a storm of grace unfurls. And with it, she becomes unknown or new, balanced on the sharp edge of her shoe. With force of breath, she drives both will and weight into the leather strapping of her skate and plows her body past an invisible barrier and quietly moans, crackling like fire. Descending in pirouette, she sees her image laid out upon the ice. It pays her homage. The echo of her thoughts sounding a terror as she defaces the disquieted muse in the mirror. Tracing hairline patterns in the immaculate sheet, at the height of furor, she is complete. She finds in form a beauty she creates, a shield against the world, which she obliterates through skill and mastery of teeth and blade. There comes a moment she is not afraid. And Lena and the Flying Cranes after the Moscow Circus. The duo are high wire walkers, a swing act, thrilling audiences, acrobats. The stakes could not be higher as the accordion of her body unfolds. She leans out over the cusp, steps off into the violent husbandry of gravity. Her body folds like origami, inward, fetal, a triple somersault, then elongates into a fluid concentration of muscle. The way she travels through the air, the brush strokes of her body, an aurora of light, she is all language with swift punctuations. As she flies, she defies all we fear to be true. Homing with precision, she inhabits abandon, the intense vulnerability of creation. Smoke and ascending violins as she reaches for her catcher's hand. The human grasp pulling her back onto the ledge and the beginning of boundaries, a retreat from the overreaching darkness. Just check my time. Okay. This poem I'm about to read is called Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed. The planet offers earth and loam, but sometimes soil refuses moisture. Then love travels like tumbleweed. Remember when father moved out and mother was not leaving bed or fog, no matter how much the future was waving? Whatever has happened or was supposed to, it rambles down the road of what once was. It is a dream now, almost bearable. Goodbye to the willow. Goodbye to the ransomed heart. This path of thorn and mint goes on and on. Sprig and poisonous berry, with which I write my name. Speaking of love, model boat. We knelt beside the stone lip and set our boat onto the water. Its white sail, blue pinstripe markings that made it our boat, my father's and mine. Our faces floating along with the trees, lapis, already a few fallen leaves. He was telling me something about love, and then to seal it, when he was sure I had it, he said, "Let her go," and I released her, heading out toward the center, suddenly lost among the other boats. Rushing water. There's got to be another word for rushing water. And if there happen to be two people watching, one for the casual witness and one for the other, there's got to be a word for the throat of the flower where pistil and stamen join, or the way a diamond feels in the hands of a miner as it is lifted from earth's crusty socket. There's got to be a word for clergy bathing in the same stream, the onomatopoeia for what has died in the wet bevy of molecules, silver and blue. There's got to be a word for water rushing over a fallen tree. How long it took to get here, and more rushing water to follow. There's got to be a word for this. I have three more poems to go. To stick with my water theme, this poem is called Johnson's Pond, Vermont. Actually, I began this poem after attending the Breadloaf Writers Conference there so many years ago. And it just sort of sat there, and I just recently actually finished it, which is interesting, I think, in terms of how poems sometimes just have their own time. So this poem is called Johnson's Pond, Vermont. And of course, in time, what happened and what didn't happen also changes. Okay. A summer porch party moves to the edge of a field. A hive of bodies, a bonfire, pond cold ale. Some are stripping now, clothes fall to the ground. A dark-eyed boy sways his ass in a slow striptease. They're howling, and you, distant observer, long to rewrite this. Shed your clothes, and while you're at it, the meaning of hesitation. You who comb your hair, thinking of God as the hot sun relaxes your bones. Slip off your sundress. Stand naked as Eve, modesty offset by the serpent circling your ankle. The sly snake says, stay. The sinners watch from a distance. You enter the pond. Okay, apples. It is the last batch of apples for the season, so it should not surprise you when they bruise and turn mealy. The mealy apples are not beautiful. We shared a season, a moment. What is beautiful is the way we try to harness feelings into a lifetime, how we succumb to our hunger, the fierce living we do because we have to, the inordinate power we put into the hearth while here. I just want to thank you all for being here. This is my final poem for the evening, and it is called Geometry in a Field of Goldenrod. Lean knots of goldenrod, thick weaves of grass. The field is buzzing. Moths skim the pointed spears. I head for the center, a mute but zealous lover. Being followed by the sun, the heart forgets its hostages. First pleasure, then pain, then both at once. Just a synonym of being hurt, not the hurt itself. If truth could be told, pulled through the eye of a needle, recorded in the calyx of a bluebell, it would be found in the center of this field. If love counted in nature, these malnourished stars, barely visible, would gleam, a king's crown against the slim diameter of sun. So that truth does not devour, I carry dreams in a basket, following small insects, heading towards the center, without regret or sorrow. Thank you so much for allowing me this time to read.
Allison, those poems were so incredible, so gorgeous. And even though you couldn't see all of your audience between YouTube and Facebook, we had at any given moment about 20 to 25 folks watching. And you gotta go to Facebook and to YouTube and just see all of the comments. Such beautiful, rich images, just powerful emotions, just absolutely gorgeous. So thank you again so much. All right. And now we're going to bring up F. Scott Service. Hello, Scott.
Hello. How are you?
Very good. We are very excited to hear you read.
I hope so. That's always a good sign.
All right, Scott, we'll leave you to it.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me. And Allison, those were some truly awesome poems. I really enjoyed them. Thank you. So I'm just going to jump right into this thing because I might be towing a little bit of a time limit. I'm going to read a chapter from my second book, Playing Soldier. It comes about in the middle, and it's one of the Iraq chapters. But I kind of like reading this one. It's a little surreal. So let's just get to it. It's called Dreamland. Camp Anaconda, Balad, Iraq, any given day. Warm tangerine air greets me as I step out the back of my repair shop. Sharp contrast to the blade of fluorescence pushing through the half-open door. Cool regard of a choral evening, the end of another day. And it's been a long one. The seconds, minutes, and hours stretching into a threadbare rag. A day more like a fantasy or a nightmare. At this point, I couldn't say there's a distinction. It certainly didn't stack up with anything I'd fabricated as a boy, when visions of being a brave and just hero, of serving my nation like my father, jostled my gung-ho mind. Groping to slip away, I'm used up, nerves unraveled, and not sorry to see the sunset. Dazed, my shoulders are grateful to slump with the knowledge that barring any last-minute emergency repairs to a helicopter or unexpected problems like a misplaced work order, I'm on my time now. It's my time to slink back to my hooch and spend another night trying to forget where I am, who I am, where I may be going, or the dreams of what may come. The hours between now and another sunrise seem to be uncountable, years away, far out of reach. And like the end of the universe, there's no way I can begin to think about it. The day will come in its own time. More than anything else, here in the desert, the moments count for something longer than even the swing of a pendulum clock. Precious tick-tock moments. Admittedly, they're spaces of contrived quietude and determined heedlessness in a place that doesn't respect those mental or physical boundaries. I know this, but I don't care. Without them, I would be pushed over the cliff, one I've peered over too many times. And within the shelter of this thought, a smile begins to stretch. You got a smoke? Malcolm's voice startles me and I wince, my shoulders instantly tense. Lost in my reverie, I hadn't heard him emerge from the bleak gleam of the shop. I turn, immediately jolted back, my mind admonishing me for being lax. I don't like the thought of people behind me, learned behavior taught by the fury of this year, this tour of combat duty. Sure. Unbuttoning the chest pocket of my uniform, I pull out my crumpled pack of Marlboros, soggy with sweat, and extract one with my teeth, then extend the pack to Malcolm. He takes the last one and we light up. You're out, he says through a breath of smoke. It's all right. Got another pack back in my hooch. Taking a pull from my smoke and breathing out heavily, I look down at the ground. That was pretty fucked up what happened today, huh? He says. I look up into his eyes and they're shiny, dispassionate, glistening with both amusement and critical appraisal. I've known Malcolm for almost a year now. We met at Fort Knox. He's my section sergeant and I'm his second in command. I work with him, report to him on a nearly daily basis. I still don't know what to make of him. Aloof, sometimes unapproachable, at least to me, he's the kind of guy who always seems to be pulling your leg, either out of malicious delight or out of benign camaraderie. It's hard to tell when he just wants to be your friend, or if he couldn't give a rat's ass about what you're thinking or how you might be holding up. I can never tell which. I want to kill that fucking kid. I can feel a prickle of anger and discomfiture at having this conversation, of being blindsided this morning. He shrugs. Forget it. It's over. Besides, I talked with him. Won't happen again. Oh yeah? What makes you so sure? Look, Darnell's basically a good guy, just young, stupid. We've all been there, right? And he's caught in this insane asylum just like you and me. I nod absently. Our whole unit is an insane asylum. You know that, right? Malcolm's eyes narrow. I get an odd sensation that he's silently gauging my response to the latest tomfoolery, Darnell missing from morning formation. I don't like his quiet critique. And I feel childish. I'm sulking when I should just suck up the responsibilities of being an NCO, and part of my mind chastises me. But I also don't like being a chump, because I know that what happened was just plain ridiculous. It put me in a bad spot with our platoon sergeant. A smile breaks out, those appraising eyes mocking me. Yep, I guess I do. If it was you or me, the shit would have hit the fan big time, I mutter, pressing the issue, the rebellious part of me not wanting to let it go. Fucking ridiculous. It's bad enough to be sent over here with this loony bin, but to have to deal with the idiotic crap he pulled today? The smile fades. Malcolm takes a drag. Take it easy. Give the boy some slack. Just be thankful it wasn't anything more serious. Just do your job and we'll be out of here soon, stateside and back to the world. What world would that be? And by the way, I'm trying to do my job. He's not helping. Silence between us. Malcolm's cool regard settles over me like dry ice. I force myself to calm down, willing my heart to downshift, my face to relax. Malcolm's right. There's no point in being angry. Darnell's just a kid looking for something warm and comforting around here like the rest of us, a kid listening to the call of the wild deep within his pants. The pliant part of my mind sighs, coercing a chuckle out of me. So what's going to happen? Don't know. Could be an Article 15, but I doubt it. More than likely, it'll be a slap on the wrist, so forget it. Go home, have a drink, make sure you're back up here for the morning shift. That makes me laugh. Like Darnell? Malcolm isn't amused. He looks stern, eyes cold as if I've crossed some invisible barrier, a barbed fence line between friendship and authority. His critique's finished. Yeah, like Darnell. He flicks his cigarette into the evening air, then turns and disappears into the shop. See you tomorrow, he calls, voice filtering through the open door. Following his example, I do a right face. Aiming downward, my cigarette jets through the air and lands in the rusted Maxwell House coffee can used for an ashtray. A perfect shot. I step out from underneath the camouflage netting, our attempt at keeping in the shade while passing between the row of 6 portable repair facilities baking in the sun. A flat flap of polyester spanking the air, which is haphazardly strung along the back entrances. The grubby makeshift tunnel extends the entire length, and ornamental pockmarks glisten on the steel walkway below where meetings, disputes, or debates often take place. It ends at the concrete entrance of the hangar, a few feet away from the unexploded bomb that's lodged in the corner. The bomb that came through the ceiling. The bomb that's leaking depleted uranium. The bomb no one cared to remove. A blockade of radiation-proof caution tape protects us. Hitching my rifle higher on my shoulder, I stroll around the corner of the last shop and look around. The evening's quiet except for the hawk I just finished repairing that's taking off from the flight line. The taillight blinks as it flies away. Whop, whop, whop go the rotor blades. Leaving behind Malcolm and duty, I'm at the edge of the flight line now. Glancing to the right of me, the gaping hole of the hangar entrance looms. I can't see inside, but a spectral glimmer of golden evening light from the other end hovers in the darkness. The other side of the hangar are my unit's administrative tents, where my first sergeant and commanding officer thumb through paperwork and grimace over directives. I'm sure they've closed up for the day. Wild turkey time. It's also where the internet tent is, our tenuous thread to the rest of the world. It's where doting love letters are sent, where wrathful divorce notifications are received, where our storybook fantasies come to life in vibrant color or fade like a photograph left out in the sun, where the voices of family and friends an ocean away feel cadaverous because of time and distance, crackling static of inaccessible affection through army-paid telephones. GIs are typing or talking or crying or laughing right now. I'm glad I'm not there. Turning to the left, I see the partially disassembled Hawk waiting for its latest phase inspection, cooling down from a day in the sun. In a few days, the checkup will end with the paperwork shuffle. Comments and signatures will certify it airworthy, like the one I authorized to fly this evening. Primed to kill. All systems go, it'll be ready to glide over the sands, the palm trees, the villages and homes, perhaps even Baghdad. Ready to move men and women on and off base, spill out soldiers on missions and raids, air cover for infantry, silencing the voices of the rebellious, indignant Iraqi nationals, farmers, merchants, and family men. An eager imp, scouting and rustling up some grub. I walk past the temporary hangars, 2 huge pavilion-like tents squatting end to end at the edge of the tarmac. The tents call to mind something I'd see out in the wheat field plains of Kansas or the sunflower grass of Nebraska. Behold, there's the smooth-talking preachers ricocheting back and forth across a stage to a robed chorus, like evangelical snake oil with their sparkling microphones, glitzy gold watches, and diamond rings in the spotlight. And there's a band dressed in white, Gospel spills from their lips and miracles shoot from fingertips. Girls are forgiven of sin. Old ladies rise and walk again. A despondent farmer's promise the drought will end. Praise be the statue of Jesus, an LED crucifix above the entrance, a neon god to draw in the tired Stetson hats, and the summer dress ladies bearing barbecue baby backs or fried chicken, baked beans or coleslaw, maybe some buttered corn on the cob. Once, I wanted to believe that there could be atonement, manna from heaven, but this year's taught me different. The world is brutal and chaotic, purposeless, heartless and heedless. And no amount of prayer or revival will save me because life is a spotty exercise in survival. I'll either die here or go back to the States. Amen. To my right lie the runways. Long lines of hawks flank them. Nose to tail, they stretch as far as I can see. Darkened windows foreboding. And the price tags for each of these hawks are anywhere between $9 and $15 million. What are the value? What are the people who build them, repair them, fly them, who nurture and die by this violent essence valued at? What does their well-being cost? Don't ask. Victims and operators are one and the same. A communion between the human material that lives to preserve and be destroyed by its contrivances. It seems to me that everyone is communing in some way, their own way. My solitary father with plastic models, my mother with horror books, Rita with ambitious capitalism, politicians with vocal forgeries, me with war, with the machines of war. But it's all an effort of denial, hiding in an illusion conjured from an attempt to create order out of chaos. But from within or without, no amount of gluing, page-turning, enterprising, distorting, daydreaming, or suffering will force our fantasies into reality. The crusades of repudiation venture on. So am I. Soon I'm passing through the guard post. The road thins to a single lane and bends to the right. Now I'm in the housing area where the mess hall is, and row upon row upon row of trailers, some for bunking us down, others for showers and latrines. Ahead of me, a fuming blister slowly settles into the earth, its heat rippling across the scorched horizon. It undulates, squeezes through the maze of trailers and 8-foot-tall Jersey barriers that someone claims serve as protection against mortar attack. A few early bird stars oversee the blister's departure, consoling, winking, saying, "It's all right, Sergeant. We'll cool you down for the night." During times like this, when the camp is eerily serene, it doesn't seem like I'm in a foreign country, but I am. I have to shake myself to realize I'm in a nation we've invaded, where the United States has planted our flag of democracy and freedom. That I live in a community of malice and tumult, a neighborhood of gunfire, of mortars and bombs, and that I'm surrounded by people who would do anything to be liberated of said banner, political puppet strings and corporate greed. Not unlike me. I wade into the lake of gravel surrounding the mess hall, and the steamy aroma of breaded something or other, some sort of patty, maybe chicken or veal, swims from the open door. A hint of carrots or peas. My belly growls. It's been a long time since I've eaten. I can't remember when, but I'm not stopping. The line extends all the way around the corner, and standing there right now, waiting, all hot and itchy from the heat, for a shabby patty and mushy vegetables seems unbearable. As I walk by, voices pour from the inside. I can't discern anything. Just the boisterous buzz of humanity feeding on itself as people unconsciously try to talk over one another. Outside, the chatter is lower as people hang around for their turn, but a few are silent, standing alone with their thoughts. Grim, stony stares, and I quickly look away. They remind me of my own. The rest huddle and talk in small groups. A long, bleary stream of crazily strung together words and phrases floats into my ears. See this? waiting for a letter from her. You're fucking kidding. Burning, man, just burning. Blew the top off. If it wasn't for the context, it would seem as if they are waiting to get into their favorite beach bar on a Friday night, perhaps in Florida. And my boots become sandals as I listen to steel drums and marimbas, guitars and maracas. I'm tasting foamy heads of beer and frosty margaritas rimmed with salt. The waves are murmuring outside. Tiki torch flames light up the sand. And Rita's yelling in my ear as Harry Belafonte's Jump in the Line blares from the speakers. A carefree party. Next up, the Banana Boat song. Or they could be waiting to get into some county fair, arms around their sweethearts, her eye alight with lust over the oversized teddy bear or Kermit the Frog or inflatable alien. There's games to play, whack-a-mole or the beanbag toss, throwing darts at balloons or guessing someone's weight. It's all hit or miss. The game's usually rigged, but they don't really care. There's cotton candy to get fat on, a corn dog to munch on, a merry-go-round to ride on. Laughing lovers with dreams, spinning in the gathering dark, just like Rita and me on a warm July evening in Montana. I'm past the mess hall now, winding my way through the rows of hooches, and I see that a few clusters of soldiers have taken to lighting campfires tonight. Sitting around in their cracked plastic lawn chairs, conversations low-key. One passes a bottle, another lights a smoke. Someone's telling a joke. Rita always liked campfires. If not for the uniforms and rifles, I'd place them lounging next to their RV or pop-up or fifth wheel. A KOA, an American vacation playground where hikes are planned, canoes or kayaks rented, and Dad waves over a tossed line in the pond. Where lemonade's poured and melted ice cream sticks to fingers and picnic tables. Where hamburgers are grilled and marshmallows go up in flames. Arcade games and hay rides. First kisses and a few broken hearts. An occasional boo-boo. A Band-Aid for Mom. And the air is perfumed with bug spray to stop a big swollen bite. All while Aunt Betsy floats in the pool and Grandpa strums Billy Boy on the guitar. Hardy har har. My hooch is just up ahead, and as I pass by it to where the housing area ends in a flat expanse, beyond the last molten sliver of sunset lies the Iraqi night. Dark and hushed, the palm trees swaying shadows. Further still is northern Africa, the Atlantic Ocean, and eventually the land of the Star-Spangled Banner. Standing here alone, I feel small, negligible, a pebble in the sand surrounding me, on a far, far, far away planet, complete with unfamiliar stars and a moon that's bright like a second sun. Is this what my father felt in Korea? Estranged, even from himself? Unslinging my rifle, I sit cross-legged, hands clasped, forearms stretching out and resting on the cold steel. Fighting back tears, I wander the pasture of my mind, my choosy fingers plucking flowers. I remember when Rita and I first met, she said she loved my sense of adventure and how I had been to so many places. We used to lie in bed at night, side by side, gazing up at the ceiling of our apartment and plan trips, places we wanted to explore, laughing until the wee hours of the morning. We wanted to see the Grand Canyon, so we got up early one morning and went. It was spontaneous, and we were determined not to hurry. Along the way, we stayed in a small town one night in a tiny hotel, a mom and pop joint with only a few rooms. It was so late, nothing was open, streets empty and quiet. We unpacked our portable camping stove and huddled over it outside the back door of the room on a square concrete slab. We boiled some water and cooked some noodles. Then after draining, we stirred in some canned tuna. Here we were, miles from anyone we knew, in the dark of a town we couldn't even see, and we were spooning tuna noodle surprise from our pot, sitting comfortably, our backs leaning against the wall of the house. Broad grins, bright eyes, tired frown, vacant stare. I'm heartbroken and dismal. Over here in Iraq, I've not only had to confront the reality of my life with Rita, but the reality of life constantly on the edge of death. Many of us have often said to each other, or even to ourselves in the closeness of night, that this life of war is as real as it gets, as good as it gets. But I've been shot at and mortared and bombed so much that I can't tell the difference anymore between reality or fantasy, however it's conceived. I'm walking in a netherland, neither here nor there, caught in a spiraling pool of wonder at the choices I've made. War, internal or external, never ends. It's a blow to my ego realizing that I'm not an exotic adventurer, that I'm not brave, just, righteous, and infallible, a hero sculpted from the figures of my youth like my father. And I remember how untarnished my vision of the world was, how lucid my conception of values were, the clarity of who and what I wanted to be. But that boy, that self, has disappeared from my mind, is obscured to my heart, remote like waking from a dream. Shamed and disappointed, I shudder in the warm evening air. But the clutter's been swept away. I have the freedom to see more clearly. Everything that's been drilled into my head over and over and over again, those sermons on success, on how to move forward, my desire for approval and acceptance, have been stripped away because when my breath blows through the dust of a mortar attack, I am only fully alive. Impending death redeems the mind, delivers life, and explodes the veil of deception. The life that Rita and I had built was a reality I wanted, but didn't fit. The clash of our goals and personalities, her being mainstream and me unconventional, rendered opposing measures for success and failure, for meaning and fulfillment. I conveniently glossed over core differences, her corporate 9-to-5 career and cookie-cutter suburban home and life, me wanting to see what's up ahead on a highway, then retreat to my off-the-grid cabin in the woods. But these disparities were always simmering, ready to boil over at the right time and place. I ignored them, made compromises, hoping I could live with it, like my parents. But neither relationship worked out. Neither was happy. Too submerged in anger, resentment, the years molding a deep-seated mutual grudge of embedded bitterness. The only difference was that my parents stayed together, gutted it out, while Rita and I parted. I was a drone, a tranquilized jester immersed in self-deception which arose from perceived needs of conformity, approval, security, companionship, and love. A vain effort to fulfill a vacuum generated by my childhood home life, my distant father, my haggard mother, both bleeding from their years together while I was left alone. And those voids were what motivated me to do as I was told, led me to enlist with the Army. But now, with the cognizance of how inhuman and ferocious war is, that there's no claim to fame, here I am, sitting here in the sand, anointed with the oil of brutality, red-eyed from cocktails of truth by the ashes of a campfire, and riding the merry-go-round alone. I can't think anymore. I'm tired beyond anything I've experienced. I need to lie down and let everything slip away. A grateful sleep embrace with no dreams. I stand, hefting my weapon in turn. I stroll around the corner to my hooch, and overhead, I hear a distorted whistle, arcing whine. Instinctively, I wince with the expectation of what's to come. It does. The explosion peels through me, past me, nearly knocking me over. Clumps of sun-hardened sand and gravel from the housing area clatter around me. The air's thick with dust, and my legs are wobbly, no stability. I can see Rita as we're getting married. A day late in May, a small country church. We grin and say, I do. The alarm sirens are wailing now. My chest tightens and another explosion breaks through the air, this time behind me. The world turns obsidian and I'm dizzy. The stars have come down from the sky and are dancing before my eyes. And Rita's scampering over the rocks of the Grand Canyon, smiling while we're strolling arm in arm through the county fair. I can't breathe. Another explosion, a rain of debris, yells through the camp. A burst of light, a couple of rifle shots. And outside the wire of Anaconda, a family of 12, a man, his wife, and children. They were believed to be providing refuge for local insurgents by the infantry squad surrounding their home. Panicked, fleeing, they're gunned down under the palms by the circling hawk. Whop, 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 go the rotor blades. My ears are ringing, my head's breaking open. And in the haze of terror, the unblinking cyclops of the pendulum clock is always watching. Thank you, guys.
Scott, it was incredible, and so powerful. Thank you so much. I just want to give you a little applause before we go into Q&A fully. Incredibly powerful, and just like I said to Allison, you've got to go on Facebook and YouTube later and just see all of the comments. People were powerfully moved by your reading. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And now it is time for Q&A with Allison Woods and F. Scott Service. Wow, what a night of powerful readings. And you know, Chris, we always find the serendipity, like the connection between our readers of the night. And you know, though Allison pointed out a little bit earlier, you know, maybe our subject matter is a bit different, but I think the biggest thing that I found in common was just the exquisiteness of Allison's poetry and imagery and metaphor, and just and yours as well, Scott. Just such exquisite and powerful imagery, just like tears in my eyes.
You know, the use of metaphor and poetic language in the prose, and of course, in the poetry, the subject matter, of course, couldn't be really more different, although they're, you know, Scott, you touch on, you know, domestic scenes amidst all this carnage and horror, and, you know, which is what Allison celebrates in her poetry. But, there, you know, there's definitely overlap in language and how we use it. So
absolutely. And just how powerfully that comes across. Yes.
Questions. I'm just calling out for questions amongst our.
Calling for questions. Get your questions up there, audience. Get them up on Facebook. Get them up on YouTube. While you're typing, I'm going to start us out with what has become kind of our traditional first question. You know, we began this at the very beginning of quarantine, at the very end of March 2020. Oh, man. And so we've been doing this kind of as a way to keep ourselves sane and to celebrate all of our writing and to just have that warmth of camaraderie and community despite the, you know, quarantine pandemic situation. So my first question to you guys is, how have you been doing as writers, as people who go out to read your writing? How has it been going for you? How has quarantine been? How has enduring this time, doing readings online, been for you? And I guess we'll start with Allison and then go to Scott.
Hi. Scott, that was I just have to say, incredible. I really, really, truly enjoyed that. Really want to get your book, get more of your work and read it. I really enjoyed that so much. How has this time been? Well, it's COVID. You know, I'm working from home, and I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, in some ways, I worked from home a lot to begin with. So in some ways, things aren't, you know, that dramatic. It wasn't a huge dramatic change, just in terms of my socialization in a sense. But the stuff that I used to do that I'm not doing is definitely glaringly apparent. And like I said, my book came out. When did it come out? Like I think mid-October-ish, October, November.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So November. So really this past weekend between yesterday and today are the only 2 readings that I've done. It's very strange not being able to connect with bookstores and sort of go out and meet people and read in public and sort of celebrate the book in that way.
Right.
Which is why I was really happy when Chris asked me to read here, and I sort of I planned the weekend to do it like that. And you know, in terms of the process of writing, I'm not in the phase right now of creating poetry. I was more in the sort of minor phase of promotion, in a sense.
Right, sure.
Which is not the fun part whatsoever. It's actually the very painful part.
Can be, yes.
Yeah. So
But you're not writing COVID poems, quarantine poems?
No, but you know, I will say that I do notice that now that this book is out and I get to sort of, that gestates a little bit, I actually started an essay a little bit about poetry writing, and I don't know for what or for who, but I just think like once a work that, you know, a sort of a collection of work is out, it does change me anyway.
Right.
And so I'm feeling those changes taking place in very subtle ways. So we'll see.
I like that you mentioned that, Allison. That's a very cool thing to observe, because now that you mentioned that, I think, you know, I just have one chapbook out there, but you know, after going through that whole process and having it out in the world, you know, I'm feeling like I'm a little bit in this different place, and I'm thinking of different things, and how is this going to connect with the next manuscript and what I'm putting out there. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Allison. And Scott, tell us about how it's been.
Well, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yep.
I was not at all sorry to see 20 go. Yeah, that was a beautiful moment. I don't, you know, honestly, I'm not sure how to answer that either. I guess, you know, my answer would be kind of similar to Allison's. I'm kind of an introverted recluse, so in a lot of ways, my life really hasn't changed that much.
Like, I've been preparing for this. Like, this is it's all good.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like, yeah. So I'm at home all the time anyway, and that's where I like to be, right? So you know, in that sense, you know, nothing's really changed. But you know, lately I have been focusing a hell of a lot on trying to promote my lowly little book out there, you know, and trying to prevent it from getting lost at sea with all the others.
Oh no, it won't be lost. It's got incredible writing.
It's, you know, publishing is difficult, you know. It's really difficult to maintain a voice out there, or even to get, you know, a handful of reviews sometimes. So that's really where I've been focusing a hell of a lot of my time these last couple of months or so. It keeps me busy. It really does.
Absolutely.
All day, every day on the computer, shamelessly promoting myself.
It's a full-time job.
Well, you know,
it's part of it. You know, that's the business end, and it's not my favorite, but you got to do it. Right?
Absolutely. Just like Allison was saying, you know, maybe it's not the most fun part, or it feels weird, but when we had our pub night and we had our friends from Woodhall Press on here, they were talking about just how much, you know, the writer needs to be part of the marketing, and that makes the biggest difference. Like, you could write the most incredible thing, but if it's not getting into people's hands, they you know, they don't get the opportunity to know. So now all of you who are in the audience right now who loved this, there are books on sale from these
shameless plug. It's on Amazon. Yeah, go pick up a book.
Yes, yeah. Entice them with this video. Very good. Well, thank you so much. You know, it's always illuminating to hear how other writers are faring. It's a hard time. It's a weird time, and you know, it's kind of affecting everybody in some different ways. But Chris, we have some questions.
Okay, I've got a few. Lona, who is always good for asking questions. We count on her to come up with some good questions. Now, this is for you, Scott, but we could probably, get Allison to answer this in a, from a different direction, maybe. But
Absolutely.
Lona appreciates the fluidity between the experience and the reflection. So, what's going on in Iraq, and then your reflections. Your writing flows between the two. What was your writing process? Specifically, she says, what was your revision process to achieve that flow? And you called it surreal. In a way, it was kind of, the way it bounced back and forth between, this scene of, carnage and fear and horror, and then stuff back home and stuff. Like, how did you achieve that? How'd you do that in 10 words or less?
Tell us how you did it. You said these came from your journals, that these were...
Well, yeah, no, I mean, actually, this is not from my journals. This is from Playing Soldier. This is from my second book.
Right.
Got it.
It's really hard to answer that. I think I really just, it's what I saw in my mind. I don't know how else to really kind of say that. And, look, that chapter was revised quite a few times. Mm-hmm. But the initial first draft of it was really just drawing off of how I felt and what I was thinking and experiencing in that moment, because that day really did happen, because it's a memoir. So I guess the process of it is, I could say that, I laid down on the couch one day and closed my eyes and started imagining that day again. And then I just let it flow onto the computer and revised it from there. It's really, for me, it's kind of as simple as that, in a sense.
I think that's,
does that make sense?
That totally resonates, because I feel like, and that's what reminds me, of a kind of poetry in this, because it seems like it's such an authentic flow. Like, you tapped into that moment, and like it was such an authentic fluidity between the scenes you remember and the associations that you have, the connections that you have with it, and you were able to like put that on the page and put it into words so powerfully with all the metaphor and imagery, like without bruising it or forcing it. And I think that's one of the things that's so magical about your writing, and very poetic too. I try and get in that moment when I'm writing my poetry.
But and I think you're selling yourself a little bit short by framing it as, well, that's what was going through my head, as if that means that when it gets down on the page, it's going to work,
Right.
That's why I said that. I mean, it was certainly revised.
Yes. Well, there's where the work comes in, right? And then you the artist steps forward, because I would imagine everybody at that base had all kinds of connections they were making, as the day went on, and as explosions were happening, or whatever was happening. Who knows what goes on in people's minds? But to be able to render that in a coherent, literary,
coherent and incredibly powerful and
right.
and visceral way.
Right. That's where the hard work of the revision comes in. So
Yes.
you earned it.
Well, you have to go through it. You get to that point, right? You have to go through it word by word, literally.
Exactly.
You look at each individual word, right? And sometimes you can take sentences and paragraphs and even shuffle them around. I mean, things happen. It's very fluid. It's very fluid in a lot of ways. Yeah.
And Allison, I think we can sort of put this to you as well, because
Absolutely.
so much of your poetry is about lived experience, right? I mean, the going to Baxter Preserve with the dog, was that with Juno?
With Juno.
With Juno, the late great Juno Pooch. And by the way, Melissa and Frankie were at Baxter Preserve today with Janine. So and Twinkle. But anyway, so you have that experience. So then, then I don't know, you go home, you let it gestate. I mean, there was the poem that was however many years old that you started, and then
Yes.
right, just like Scott, however many years ago that was in Iraq, where you were there, and then when you wrote
Absolutely.
down, then there's this process of getting it onto the page and the revision and everything. So, Allison, what's your process there? Like, how long do you wait, to get it down? How long, I mean, the one example you had was many years, but sometimes maybe it's a half an hour. What do I know?
Right. How long? It may not take very long at all for those connections to come and for those metaphors to happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely true. I did write a poem from one poem since the book was published, and it came really quickly. So, I guess that can happen. I don't know. There's something about applying this to what I heard with Scott, and I guess with myself as well, that I feel like there's one, like if you were making a recipe, it would be like a third of a cup of inspiration, which you can't,
I love this.
You can't describe. I mean, it's just what you get.
Right.
It's the inspiration part. Then,
of course.
Then a third of a cup of practice, of reading and writing and trying and failed efforts and time and experience. And so I think I don't know, I'm presuming now, but like when Scott said he sat on the couch, I've had, I guess, maybe similar, and thought about something and then, brought it onto the page. As you said, Chris, he's also brought his experience and other practiced writings, and, he brought a lot to the chair when he actually sat to put it down on paper, and a vision, which I don't know where that stuff comes from exactly.
Right.
He does, right? So it's sort of like a melding of your vision and some kind of trigger, inspiration, with more of a practice or mindful sense of, oh no, I can't, that doesn't work, or whatever, or it's not feeling authentic or not saying what you wanted to say, because I don't know in memoir how this works, but I do know in poetry writing, I think it's always best to not fully know what you want to say until So
well, you're also dealing with form, at least in some of your work, whether it's villanelles or whatever. So then you have to figure out how to go, to meet the requirements of that structure, which adds a whole other element of, editing and, getting your ideas down in a specific kind of a format.
It makes you push your limits, which is, that's the nice thing about form, is that, it forces you to go beyond, you're not going to run cat and hat. So then you've got to figure out a better, more interesting way to do that,
Right. Well, you open up doors you wouldn't open up.
Exactly.
So this is sort of related from JLC. You capture your imagery immediately and parenthetically carrying pen and paper. You let the thoughts simmer before you write. So I mean, it's related to what we were just talking about. But I am curious, if you're the note-taking kind of writers,
write everything down,
or if I remember it, it's worth remembering kind of writers. How does that work for you guys?
What about you, Scott?
Well, you go.
Me?
Well, for your first book, you took, you had a I guess a journal that you kept, but then this second book, so you had to, I don't know, remember stuff more, or did you have, sort of notes?
Are you the guy with the notebook writing everything down?
Were there little scraps of paper about the night that those explosions and bombings took place, or did you just remember?
Well, it's a little bit of both when it came to that. There were, when I actually came home with 5 journals from Iraq, and the original first draft on the computer was a little over 900 pages.
Incredible.
So, in that sense, you can't, logistically and practically in a business sense, you can't produce a book that big anymore, right? Especially somebody like me, right? So I had to cut a lot of stuff out of Lines in the Sand. And what I really wanted to do with Playing Soldier was reinsert these experiences, that I had previously deleted, to kind of make it more of a, full story. And I really wanted to tell these anyway. So, but to answer that question, as far as taking notes and whatnot, I do have scribbles. Oh yes. But they're nothing like major. They're more like one sentence here and there, or maybe a word or something like that. No, I don't take a lot of notes. Like I said, I really try and, imagine the scene again in my head, and then I just kind of go to it. I'm very immediate like that.
I think that's so good.
Because first drafts, I don't care how long they are. I don't care what's going on. And oftentimes I find that my mind goes in a completely different direction when I start writing anyway.
Love that.
So what's really important is that I'm feeling what's going on inside of me and being honest with myself, right? And being descriptive and using that, as much imagery as I can. But as far as just, writing that first draft, no, it's all immediate. Just get it down. Because the way I see it is you're going to spend months revising the damn thing anyway.
Right.
Right.
But,
so don't worry about it. Don't feel inhibited. Just write the damn thing.
Right.
So.
I totally agree. And there might only be like this window of time when you are kind of really feeling that moment, and you kind of have that magical moment of inspiration where you're going to capture that flow, and you can tweak all these other things later, but you got to capture that when it's authentic and when you have that sort of naturally magical fluidity where you're connecting and you're seeing, remembering.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I mean, you get all of that, right? And you can spend like a day or two writing that. But then honestly, sometimes it gels in your mind over time. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning after writing for a day, and it's still in my mind, and I have to sit at my desk jotting a couple of notes down, right? And it's the way it is. Right. So once you're really in it, it's just you're in that moment, man.
You're in it. Yeah. I love that. Allison.
Capture imagery immediately. I have so much writing, drafts in countless journals and in countless files on my computer. And so a lot of times I will go to that as source material.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there to begin with. And sometimes I'll even, like randomly weave something I wrote at one point in one place with something I wrote some other place, and I'll juxtapose them and see what comes from that even.
Right.
So, and then when I'm in it, in terms of writing, like seriously in the midst of writing a poem, sometimes more image or language will come at that point.
Yes.
It's like a chemistry class.
Yeah.
Scientist, honestly.
You pour some of this in, and then see if it explodes.
I love that. I love experimenting with that too. I know what you mean, Allison. You're like, let's join these two poems. This is feeling right. Let's see what happens.
Like maybe Frankenstein, right?
Frankenpoem. Oh, Chris, we have a few more great questions here. Maybe we could fit one more in before our famous last question.
Why don't we go one more from Joanna? Because there was a lot of intensity here. So do you have suggestions? And this works for both of you guys. Allison, it wasn't life and death, maybe in these poems, but there's still emotional intensity, right?
Absolutely.
You have suggestions to help writers set aside intense writing so the mind can rest. I mean,
That's
I think
a great question.
that works for. I mean, it's no matter what you're writing about, it's intense for the writer anyway.
For sure.
But do you go over there and have a margarita or something?
Or do you I'm writing about this, but I need to kind of do some self-care afterwards. I need to plan a break. I can only do this for a certain amount of hours or something.
Get a massage.
Yeah.
Put it aside, find joy, find laughter, wine, music, runs, walks.
Nature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it will be there if it needs to be written, it will be there. Trust that, I guess.
How about you, Scotty?
Well, I think it's a very individual thing, but I can tell you what I do. When my eyes are burning and my fingers are tired and I just don't want to sit at the damn computer anymore, I do what I call fluttering. And I make myself a cocktail and I wander around the house for sometimes a good hour and a half. And I just kind of I look at anything and everything, just stare at the walls or look at the books in my library, or turn the lamp on and off a couple of times. I just flutter around the house, just
I really
wandering
like
from
this
place
word
to
for
place.
this activity, fluttering.
Well, it helps, right? Because it's a way of decompressing, right? So yeah, I wander around the house kind of aimlessly while my mind kind of settles itself for the day.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I think that's excellent, and I love that you sort of encapsulated that with this word, because I've absolutely done that exact kind of thing when I was decompressing from some intense work or some intense writing, or just some intense emotions. Absolutely. Well, we are at our last few minutes of Q&A of our show tonight. So we've got to ask you, incredible writers, our famous last twofer question. It's a double question. Chris.
Okay.
What's that question?
Okay. So for both you guys, we'll start with Allison and then go to Scotty.
Okay.
So part one. Advice to the young writer, right? And think of it this way. Maybe think of you when you were first starting out, of yourself.
Wisdom.
Given what you know now, what is your main pearl of wisdom? Just one, the one thing that jumps into your head, and then a book recommendation for all of us. It's just something that's excited you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the first part again? The first part of
a pearl of wisdom for writers.
Wisdom. We
Young,
went to recommendation.
Young writers.
A pearl of wisdom or advice?
One.
Those are way different things.
A piece of advice that one would consider a pearl of wisdom.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't really know what the framework is, but what comes to mind, and loosely speaking, is you said, I remember when I was a lot younger and starting out, and I love this. I still have this sometimes, and it's just a wonderful thing to experience, is when you read a lot and you then become so inspired to write as a way of dialoguing with what you've been reading, and so getting, in sort of to that place where you're so excited you want to respond, I think is a really nice place to be. And the other, a book that I really referred to a lot when I was actually editing my book is this book called The Tulip Flame, book of poetry by Chloe, H-O-M-U-M. And I just loved her. The poems are somewhat spare and very simple and just very beautiful. I love this book a lot.
Tulip Flame.
Pare things down and to just not over load them. So
Cool.
I love that. Thanks, Allison. And Scott?
Advice, a little nugget of wisdom, right?
Yes.
What I would say is, don't get too caught up in publishing, and especially traditional publishing.
Yes.
Write, believe in yourself, do your thing, and really don't worry about them out there. I really, in a lot of ways, don't like the publishing world at all. It can be very shallow and fashionable, and a lot of good books go by the wayside because
Yes.
of their poor decision-making processes, right? So
Right.
don't even think about them. Just be yourself and write what you love, and if you have to self-publish or take another route in the future, then do it then. But when you're writing, no, don't even think about it. Leave them out of it. Get rid of them. So,
Great advice.
and I'm gonna, as far as a book goes, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but this is what I believe, and this is what is true. One of the books that has most heavily influenced me, and one that I really love and will always be in my library, is actually Barron's Tom of Vietnam.
Wow. Barron! I think he's watching tonight. Barron!
It's one of the best books I have ever read. I just love that book to death.
That's great.
He really nailed it. And it's fiction, and he never fought in a war, and he just told a war and veteran story that was, I don't know, I felt like I was talking to myself. I love that book.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, great book.
Getting it.
Yep, there it is.
Oh, Barron.
I can't say enough about that book. It's freaking awesome.
That is so great. That is so great. So people need to go out and buy Allison's poetry books, F. Scott Service's books, and also these wonderful recommendations that have been mentioned tonight, for sure. And Barron has been, is a faculty in the Fairfield University MFA. He was my mentor. He's our friend. I hope perhaps he's still watching at this point. He was in the comments before. An incredible writer, absolutely. And thank you very much, Allison Woods and F. Scott Service, for your incredible readings tonight, for being here with us tonight. Thank you so much to our incredible audience on YouTube and on Facebook for joining us tonight and for making these nights so much fun. Allison and Scott, you got to go on Facebook and YouTube and just see all of the amazing comments for you. And thank you so much to Chris. Chris, we're on YouTube now. This is very exciting.
Oh my God, we're doubling. We're doubling the size of our audience overnight. So,
it's true, actually. I've been watching.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Very exciting. Well, anyways, you got to tune in next week. We'll be back.
That's right. We have Kim McGowan, Michelle Ross,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic fiction writers. So tune in for that, please.
Yes. So we will see you then. Have a great night. Thank you so much to our writers and viewers. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.